a biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
Some different dimensions to explore in these coming few minutes. A conversation about what it means to follow Jesus in light of ministry and mission work for those of us who consider ourselves really not to be a missionary. Lots of us fall into that category, and our special guest today has been personally wrestling with this concept of going where you believe God is calling you, even though you don't really understand why or what you might be doing when you get there. Brenda Stevenson is back with us. Brenda is an author. She wrote the books Vortex and Georgia. Her latest release is called One But Many, A House of Secrets. She's a registered counsellor with the Christian Counsellors Association of Australia, Psychology Today Online and Chaplaincy Australia. Brenda, a special welcome back to 2020.
Well, thank you so much. It was such a great time last time. I was really looking forward to it.
Well, Brenda, especially when you're around, what's happening with your life and what you feel God is saying to you, and you've been personally wrestling with this call to go. Give us some insights into what's been happening.
Well, life has just gone on pretty much as usual. So there's not been anything significantly different. But I was journaling, or maybe some weeks before Christmas. And in amongst what I was journaling, the Lord said, I'm going to send you to Israel short term, and it'll be connected to some Christian people in an organisation I know. That was it.
So it's a mission focus, going there to serve, something of a quiet word from God that says, I want you to go to Israel. Some people will say, that sounds great for a holiday, but you've got a missionary dimension to what you want to do there in serving.
Well, and he didn't say anything at first. That's all he said. So it took a little bit of time before I started to get a sense of there's something to this. Okay, what is that? And I kept saying to the Lord, why? Why are you sending me? What am I going to be doing? I'm not a missionary. I'm a city girl. I'm not a missionary. Like, what would I be doing? Well, there was no answer for a little while. Then one day at church, Christian people who are involved in an organisation over there were talking about their ministry, and they mentioned trauma. And that's when it hit me. This is about me going there to do trauma counselling for whoever he wants to send to my way.
And that's something you're qualified for, being able to help people through the trauma they've been through. And there's a whole nation right now in trauma in Israel. So the calling to there seems to be something that is quite relevant, because some might say, well, if you're called to Israel, maybe that could be more along the lines of doing some sort of a pilgrimage, because you could go to the deepest, darkest jungles of Africa and, doing a Dr. Livingstone type thing and going into being a missionary. But you've got some skills that you can offer to be a part of helping people through the trauma they've been through. And there's a whole nation there who are in trauma. Let me ask you about the term missionary, because we might think, well, I'm not really a missionary. What's your take on being a missionary?
Like many people, I've always thought of a missionary as exactly what you described, going off into some far-off land overseas, living amongst the poor and all that sort of thing, which is absolutely not me. But I am a firm believer that the mission field is all around us. It's in our backyard. It's in our workplace, our friends, families, social situations. And God asks us all the time to do mission work, ministry, evangelize, he puts things on our heart. For me, that's actually truly what mission work is all about. In terms of being sent off to an overseas country, that was so far left field for me, I couldn't understand why me. I kept saying, why me? I'm not a missionary. Eventually, the other day, he said to me, it's better if you stop asking me why, and I would rather that you said thank you that you've asked me to go. So he was a very gentle little sort of, I wouldn't know what other word to call it, but, that gentle thing of change your thinking on this.
And across the street or across the seas, that is a great way to think of mission work, because we can be a missionary in our own local street. The neighbours are our missionary endeavour. But there's a certain caution that we might have when we think of an overseas missionary expedition and how we're hearing from God. I wonder if you've got any thoughts here on how you heard from God, and how can you be sure, because we'll often talk about, having wisdom in a multitude of counsellors, and did God really say that's what I'm called to do? And did others tick that box and say, yep, I believe you are called, Brenda?
Yeah, I did. I have asked some other people, because I'm someone who will share this information and say, have you got any insights? Why me? But I had a few people confirm that they believe the Lord is wanting me to go. Then I had this funny little incident, which is neither here nor there really, but it spoke to me, and that was as I was preparing to move out of my apartment just before Christmas, just after Christmas, I felt a nudging to go to this box where I keep photos, the old original photos. And in there was a brochure, a pamphlet on the national parks in Israel, because I have been there in 2009. Now, why was this in amongst a bunch of photos? I have no idea. But when I pulled it out, I thought, Lord, is this you just saying something to me here, that you actually want me to go? And the sense was yes. But I did ask a few other people.
What about the thought of counting the cost? Because there's a dollar figure that's attached to going off to Israel or anywhere on an overseas mission expedition. But there are all sorts of other costs too. And given that you might be contemplating going to a war zone, visiting a travel doctor, appropriate vaccinations, leaving some things to chance or to divine providence may be one way of looking at that. But how do you talk about counting the cost of going to a place that might be uncertain?
It's an interesting thing, but that never really crossed my mind that much. I didn't think of it in that way, and I probably should have. I'm very aware of what's going on politically and all of that over there. But there's just a sense of it's all going to be okay, and that might sound a little silly, but there isn't a sense of danger I really believe if the Lord's sending me, I'm going to be okay. And the Christian organisation I'm going to connect with, they're still there operating. God's looking after things is how I see it.
When we talk funding for missionary aspirations, you're going to be connecting with an agency there in Israel, but there are mission agencies here that help to enable people to go to the mission field. Are you bypassing some of those because you've already got relationship in Israel for the potential there for getting involved?
Well, to be honest, because I don't consider myself a missionary, I have never connected with anybody like that. I don't even know who they are. So for me, when I said to the Lord, how am I going to do this? I've got no money. What dropped into my mind was GoFundMe. And so I thought, all right, I'll just set that up. And I don't even know who the organisations you're talking about, I don't know who they are to approach.
We might be able to send off to you a few of those organisations that might be interested to talk to you. Of course, the risk is, isn't it, that you might go unprepared, and there might be, in the thought of an ideal mission endeavour, a certain preparation time that might prepare you for what you're about to encounter and the skills that you might need communicating cross-culturally. But you've been to Israel before. Some of those things are already a part of you.
Yes. Yeah, I went as a tourist, so I've got some familiarity around Israel, not everywhere. But just coming back to something you said, and it's gone out of my head now. For me, it's a very black and white. If the fund's there, I go. If the funds aren't there, I don't go. So it's very simple that way. And I believe the Lord has said April, May this year. So if the funds aren't there for me to go, I don't go. I wait.
Some might be thinking, how do you experience what we might be thinking as a certain level of confidence that you have, but we might even call it a peace that passes understanding? Well, Lord, if you're calling me, then you're going to make a way. How do you describe that sort of inwards, inner feeling of confidence that God is going to be making a way for you?
I can't actually say I'm that confident God's going to make a way. I'm just choosing to trust that if he said he wants me to go, he's going to make a way. So I'm going in trust that he's sorting out something, but I can't see what it is right now. I got no idea. He's not talking to me about anything other than just say thank you. There's nothing more. And I wish I could say something that sounds really intelligent around this, but I've never done this before.
You know, in some sense, when people pray for things, there are two types of people. There are the ones who will say, I'm going to quietly wait for God to provide the means to get there. And then there's what is still quite legitimate, I think, is the idea of having some loud faith, where you share your vision with others, and others say, you know what, I think you'd be great to be involved in the trauma counselling that people have as a real need right now. And they then begin to bend over backwards to help you get there. And I guess we're sharing your story with listeners too. So there might be some listeners who might be thinking, well, I can help this particular lady get to her destination. She's called by God. Brenda Stevenson is her name. She's a qualified counsellor. She wants to get involved in trauma counselling in Israel, wants to spend some time there. So is your GoFundMe page still operational?
It should be. It's just go to that website, look, put my name in, and it's Stevenson with a V. It should bring it up. If there are any problems, maybe they can let me know. They'll find my information through the Christian Counsellors Association anyway. But as far as I'm aware, someone did make a donation recently, so it should still be operational. Hopefully.
Well, Brenda, there might be some people listening now who want to help you on your way. Brenda Stevenson, that's Stevenson with a V, Stevensen, and you might like to find that S-O-N, Stevenson, and you can find that GoFundMe page and type in Brenda Stevenson. You'll be able to find how you could help Brenda get there. Brenda, also, I mentioned your books, Vortex and Georgia, and your latest release, One But Many, A House of Secrets. We had a conversation about those recently. No doubt for listeners, they can get a hold of those online too. And for all sorts of reasons which we thought were good, you have written some of those under a nom de plume, Emma Lyndon Jones, a fiction writer who interweaves her own Christian story into her writing, Emma Lyndon Jones. But Brenda Stevenson, thank you so much for sharing these thoughts with listeners today on 2020.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.